The award we are awarding this afternoon is the Rebecca Rice Award. The Rebecca Rice Award recognizes alumni of Antioch College who, by their actions, achievements, and leadership, have distinguished themselves and their alma mater. This award is intended for people who have demonstrated excellence in their own vocations or fields of study. It's named for the first female trustee and longtime faculty member of Antioch College, Rebecca Rice. To introduce our MacArthur Award winner, one of the many MacArthurs that have been awarded to Antiochians, Timothy Barrett of class of 73. We are recognizing his remarkable imagery, his achievements and inquiry as an artist, a scientist, an ethnographer, and a historian into the art of hand paper making. To introduce him and describe him further is Terry Blackhawk, class of 1968, our alumni board resident poet. Terry?
Well, thank you, Nancy. I'm afraid I didn't have time to compose an occasional poem for this event, but maybe some other time. Right, just extemporized. Yeah, we do that. Freestyling in Detroit, you know. But it's really a great honor for me to be asked to introduce Timothy Barrett for a number of reasons. When the college closing was announced in 2007, I kind of, got on my soapbox every possible moment and was touting the many, many wonders and virtues of an Antioch education, trying to build support and so on and so forth. I got a little tedious, I think, from time to time about that. But there were two things I like to cite in terms of data. And one was in the last two classes of our college, despite all of the grinding circumstances that the faculty and students experienced under the university, that we actually had in two classes of just under 200 students. We had 5 Fulbright Fellows. So that was my one piece of data. And the other piece of data was the number of MacArthur awardees we have. And I may be wrong, but I used to say, well, I think we are on a par with Princeton. Not percentage-wise, but just flat, straight-out numbers. So I hope I'm right about that. I think I'm pretty close. And so that gives me a special honor to introduce our newest MacArthur member of our alumni group. And Timothy Barrett received that in 2009. Now, as Nancy mentioned, I'm a poet, so as a word person, it also gives me a great pleasure to introduce a paper person, because poetry happens, of course, when the words meet the paper. When I was a child, I used to write little poems on little pieces of paper, and I would wrap them up in little scrolls, and I would seal them with sealing wax, and I would go put them out in the woods in my favorite sort of magical places. And that popped into my head when I thought about this sort of paper as like, the product, you want your words to go someplace very special. And so to have someone who's very much engaged in the art of paper making is very important, and just sort of set my mind thinking about kind of the meaning of paper. The Rebecca Rice Award is given to an alum of high accomplishment in their profession, as Nancy said. And I think we can safely say that not only is Timothy Barrett outstanding in his profession, but he has pretty well created his profession. I don't know how much paper-making professionalism there was before the 1980s when he began his career. I've investigated it a little bit on Google, and I can tell you that Timothy Barrett is adjunct professor at the University of Illinois Center for the Book, where he is founding director of the center's paper-making facilities. I discovered that papermaking through Timothy's course includes such concrete and scientific topics as tools and equipment, fiber selection and preparation, pulp coloring, sheet forming, drying, sizing, and basic paper chemistry. There's also an international focus to his work. He had a 2-year Fulbright studying papermaking in Japan, so more to our Fulbright data. And he published the groundbreaking Japanese papermaking tradition, tools, and techniques in 1983, which went into its 5th printing in 2005. His courses teach both Western and Asian-style papermaking with a focus on a technique called Nagashizuki. Thank you. All right. Okay. And he has edited a video on papermaking in India, and he has supervised interns from Italy, Germany, Chile, Australia, Argentina, and Alabama. That foreign country. In addition to his Fulbright, Timothy Barrett has received awards from the National Endowment for the Arts, the Institute of Museum and Library Services, and the Crest Foundation. He has published dozens and dozens of articles with such intriguing titles as The Role of Gelatin in Paper Permanence, Japanese World War II Balloon Bombs, Flax Fiber Fermentation and Washing During Beating, and my personal favorite, The Future of the Book as Viewed from Inside a Tornado, which I hope we will learn more about that. There's also an aesthetic side, artistic side to Tim's work. He makes one-of-a-kind artist books using handmade paper and leather. He has collaborated in creative book projects with calligraphers, visual artists, designers, and poets, including my good friend Con Hilberry. And Tim likes to say a book is as good as the paper is printed on. So please welcome Timothy Barrett.
Great. Thanks, everybody. Very, very much appreciated. I have to tell you, I've given a lot of talks, usually about papermaking, all over the place. And it's natural to wonder if there might be somebody in the audience who went to Antioch who has any idea what that was about. And I can't tell you how exciting it is to talk to a room full of people, and everybody in the room went to Antioch. In 1968, spring of 1968, I was a student at Cranbrook School for Boys in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. We are talking mandatory church on Sunday, coat and tie, no girls except on the weekends. It didn't sit well with me. I was not a happy camper. Cranbrook School for Boys is not to be confused with the Cranbrook Academy of Art, one of the best graduate schools in the country. And I much admired the graduate students. They could wear whatever they wanted. They were mainly involved in art making, which was one of my main interests at the time, along with creative writing. My senior picture kind of reveals a little bit of my demeanor as a result being at Cranbrook, I guess. There were some wonderful things that happened to me there. The architecture was fantastic. Sheathed copper roofs and carved oaken doors and so on that later I think affected my aesthetics. But I was looking for a different kind of college, and I was shopping around thinking of Earlham, Beloit, some other schools. My father, as it turns out, taught English and American literature at Kalamazoo College. And he was very involved in the Great Lakes College Association. At one point served as the provost there. And throughout my life, I had a great relationship with my father. He was pure 100% liberal arts. He never, on very, very rare occasions, would he ever try to suggest what I do or not do. But when we got into talking about colleges, I distinctly remember one day saying that I'd been reading the literature and I was kind of leaning toward Antioch. And he said very seriously, I don't think you want to go to Antioch. And this really, I really pricked up my ears at this point because it was so unlike him. I said, well, why do you say that? And he said, well, everything at Antioch is always done to So then I got really interested. I said, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, and this is all, I'm totally straightforward. I mean, he was very sincere. I was down there recently for a meeting, and this student came walking across the campus toward me. And he had big, bushy head of hair, a big black beard. He had nothing on but a pair of blue jean cutoffs and a big glass diamond stuck in his navel. And of course, at that point, I knew I was. This is what 3 years at Antioch can do to you if you come out of all-boys boarding school. This is on the top floor of the art building, making handmade paper for the first time. A lot of people look at this and think, holy smokes, you know, the guy knew even way back then he was going to follow this path. The truth of the matter is, I could have cared less about the paper making at this particular moment in time. I had a complete crush on one of my Antioch classmates. She was a photographer, and I had talked her into come taking pictures of me making paper. It's a little demonstration for these school kids at the Antioch school, I think it was called, and I was just so thrilled that she agreed to come take photos of me. Anyway, that's how I had these pictures. It wasn't really because any kind of light bulb had gone off. In fact, I was engaged in trying all kinds of things when I was at Antioch. I set up a small paper-making shop, did lithography on some of my handmade paper, stained glass, ceramics, videotape, photography, anything. I mean, it was the essence of what liberal arts training is supposed to be about. You follow your nose and figure out what about it all is meaningful to you in particular. Photography, this is a self-portrait in a men's room. Notice the coonskin hat. I was also very into leather, making things out of leather. I still have this pair of pants, actually. Motorcycles, that was, we're talking 1968 through 1973. And any of you who were here at that time or anything close to it will recognize yourself in a lot of these images, or I hope that's the case.